All right, y'all. What's up? Welcome back to Really Good Soup. And it's time for the peak again, man. And Jesus Christ, this chapter, man. There's so like the first half of it, I felt like was amazing, 10 out of 10 works, and then just gas like for the rest of the half of the chapter. So yeah, like let's jump right into it. But really quick, if you guys are liking these manga recap reviews, please throw me a like or a subscribe or a share, possibly. Because I can talk about One Piece forever, man. But yeah, the chapter. So yeah, we got the another installment of the Yamato saga, which like things are looking good for her now that she's like I'm really hoping that this whole 40-page like arc wasn't just to build up to Moria. Like I'm sure there's like a little bit more to this, but then again, I'm also I'm kind of blanking on a lot of this story now because she's been doing this pilgrimage for a while, and like she the whole page one thing and who's who and all that. So we'll circle back to it eventually. All right, so, we start off the chapter with everybody realizing that Shaki has been kidnapped. And along with that, freaking Don Marlin has been killed. So, I guess pouring out to Don Marlin, but damn. Shaki kidnapped and one of the Rocks pirates just got GG'd. And you see, Rocks and Whitebeard and the rest of the, Hachinosu react. Everybody's going in a frenzy, obviously, that Shaki's been kidnapped except for one person, Ochoku, which like I'm starting to think that he was the mole or whatever. That like the reason that they got invaded last time when they like invaded that charity or whatever. Whitebeard had made a comment that like the Marines like showed up like suspiciously quickly. So I have a feeling that Ochoku is our mole here. But, obviously we see the rest of the pirates, and especially Gloriosa, freaking out about Shaki being kidnapped. And we get a little interesting blurb from the narrator saying that it only took the perpetrating party a couple hours and they left behind no trace. So the way I'm imagining it was the God Knights, they showed up in the abyss. It apparently took them a couple hours, so I guess Don Marlin put up a decent fight and maybe Shaki herself might have put up a decent fight. But yeah, to be left with no trace, I can only imagine that they were just using the magic circles to get in and out. And then in the next panel, we see word spreading around the world. Roger obviously hears of this, and he's, understandably a bit upset at Rocks for, allowing this to happen. But part of me still thinks that, fire has been lit under his ass now that he's like, okay, well, now I have a reason to go seek out Shaki again. And what's kind of painful to see, though, is Rayleigh, he sees her being kidnapped, and, Rayleigh can't help but feel some kind of way. Yeah, and one of the crazier things I thought was in this chapter was the fact that Shaki's disappearance, according to Oda, caused the world's economy to grind to a halt for several weeks. Like, how goddamn powerful is Shaki that she can turn like the strongest people in the world into simps? She could have basically just straight up immunity on Pirate Island and having, all these simps protect her. And she has enough sway to just, affect the world's economy. Like, huh? We then cut to 1 year later at God Valley, where Garling, he's back to meet his new twin boys. And it does seem like Garling actually is somewhat, like, intrigued by, oh, shit, twins, huh? That is kind of fortunate. Because, I mean, we kind of all saw this coming, but, right after he makes this discovery, GG's Shanks' mom and Shamrock's mom. But not before revealing to her, that he's straight up going to marry somebody else. He's put an order in for marrying this person. God Valley is about to be erased, or at least inhabitable. And there's a freaking tournament that's about to start. And she's just like, huh? Tournament? Before, she gets stabbed or slashed or whatever. But after, Shanks' mom gets slashed, we see Garling basically give commands to the Marines saying, hey, make preparations. But yeah, we start to see what those preparations are, and it's basically rounding up ordinary civilians using non-lethal rounds, using what they said were tranquilizer rounds. And we see one Marine in particular being like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we going after regular civilians? To which, most of the high commanding officers, they're just like, dude, stop asking questions. Just follow order. You're a Marine. Just blah, 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 blah. If we finally see it, man, it's a young monkey D dragon, man. And like, it's kind of interesting to see, like, he's almost like shaking in his boots right now because, like, I'm guessing he doesn't have his devil fruit, and he's very much like trying to like justify what he's about to do. And it's like interesting to see, like he's clearly sweating. He doesn't know what he's doing, if like what he's doing is right now. And I feel like now we'll start to sort of see like where his like maybe rebellious nature, or at least his moral compass, starts to take hold. There's the presence of Roger. There's the presence of, his dad, Garp. So you have two major like pirate faction, and rocks, obviously, two major pirate factions, and the Marines, all like there for the purpose of either going after the world nobles or protecting the world nobles. So next we cut to a Marine prison transport ship, which is transporting slaves, and we finally get to see a little bit about like Ivankov and Ginny, and how Ginny was able to, leak this information to the outside world. Because, like, until now, we had just assumed that Ginny, like, she had some skills with, like, I don't know, like radio transmissions and stuff, and maybe she was somehow able to leak that information to the world. But we find out, that she was actually doing it through an informant. But, as excited as she is to relay this information to the informant, she does it a bit loudly, and that starts to make other slaves over there, like, nervous. Like, dude, like, don't try to be, like, I can kind of feel for some of these slaves over here. Like, they're just like, please don't try to be a hero right now, man. Like, we can't take any more torture or whatever. To which, it's fun to see Ivankov still embody the idea of, miracles are not, like, easy to come by. Any hope that you have harbored, you got to use it until the very end. And we see that way back when, too, when, Ivankov was talking to Bon Clay for the first time. Like, if you're not willing to throw your life away for it, then I have no interest for people like you on my crew, or just, like, helping out my cause. We also get a little cut to Kuma, who, he hasn't met Ivankov or Ginny yet, but he could at least hear that, the slaves are a bit rowdy over on the other side, so maybe there's still some hope, like, burning inside them. We then cut to Cypherpole's intelligence bureau, where we find out that the informant is a young Morgans, who's just up and coming, who has he started his World Economic News Journal or whatever, but it's still just like a local paper. But it's also interesting to see that, with this information at hand, he's going to try to con the government into being like, I have this information, I could leak it, or you could just pay me off to keep it silent. They're just like, I guess we'll have to pay you. Which, funnily enough, Morgans is just like, yeah, well, that's awesome. But just like under his breath, I'm still going to leak it anyway. But then, yeah, we cut back to Hachinosu, where, that information has been leaked now. Everybody knows that, one, like, Shaki is safe, but has been kidnapped. 2, she's on God Valley. And 3, she's supposed to be a prize for this, like, native hunting tournament. Whitebeard has at least heard of this tournament before, but he just thought it was like a rumor. The fact that, like, Whitebeard had heard that rumor somewhere before, somebody had to have been spreading those rumors. So it makes me wonder if, like, there have been, like, survivors or whatever of previous competitions. Also interesting to note is, our boy Ochoku early in the chapter seemed so giddy about Shaki being kidnapped, but now all of a sudden it seems like he's disgusted by the fact that, oh shit, I think somebody, they might find out that he's the mole. So and it's not looking great for Ochoku right now. He was probably not counting on any of this information getting leaked. Assuming Ochoku is the mole, had tipped off the Marines that, hey, yeah, this is where Shaki is, and this is probably the best time you can come kidnap her. Maybe Ochoku was the one that actually killed Don Marlin, and maybe that he was just like a plant inside the, like, some sort, he was maybe the mole or whatever that the Marines have been using for the Rocks pirates. So let's say all of that happened. If none of that information got leaked to Hachinosu, Ochoku probably would have been nice off. Like, he might have gotten paid by the government or whatever, and none of them would have been the wiser. But, now he's finding out that all this information is getting leaked. Like, reaction there, like, oh, this smells fishy. Can we really trust it? I think that's really just his form of, like, trying to deflect. Like, don't worry about it, guys. None of that's probably true, Another interesting moment we see is that, the Rocks Pirates are learning that devil fruits are up for grabs, and Mr. Hockey Transcends All particularly is interested. Like, whoa, what do these ones do? And Big Mom, on the other hand, she's just thinking like, oh man, I can just force one of my kids to eat these, and I can just make my crew insanely powerful. They don't like give a shit about Shaki. Like, they're just after like some potential like army bolstering like weapon or like weapons essentially. But Rocks, he's not deterred at all. He's like, screw it. If any of you have cold feet, you can stay behind. Rest of us, let's go get Shaki. They set sail for God Valley. We also see the Roger pirates more or less react in the same way. Like, all right, we're all setting sail for God Valley, and we are all basically have Shaki on our mind right now. And then we, cut back to a little moment that we had seen originally when we had like started talking about the God Valley incident. Roger, he's on the move, and then Garp, he gets word that Roger is on the move. Garp, he just had that whole conversation with Kong that like, hey, this is what happens when you steal the sacred jewel of Hachinosu. But whoa, Roger's there? I'm on my way. And it's really like interesting to see it, like, as the narrator explains here, this small leak, which, shout out to Ginny, shout out to Morgans, this small leak led to the collection of just like the toughest men of that era, just all to be on the same island. Harald, trying to get like in good graces with the world government, like learns that Rox is heading to God Valley, after like to get Shaki. And he figured like now would probably be the best time to intercept him and try to take his head. And we see like a fun shot of Rox as he's like, chastising Harald for like, oh, you're still trying to be the government's lapdog, blah, 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 blah. We see a shot of Rox standing in front of the 3 future emperors that ended up being from his crew, Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom, which I just thought was a pretty fun shot. What's even like crazier to me in this chapter is just like how like close Rox and Harald's like, or like how strong their friendship is, because they're like going at each other, they're insulting each other, berating, and Rox, he really does not want to fight Harald, so he suggests, hey, why don't we just talk it out, just us two. But now we get into the absolute gas of this chapter, man. Rox, he has something to tell Harald that he doesn't want even his own crew knowing, and that is that he has a hidden name. And what is this hidden name? Fucking Davy D. Zebek. Not Rox, Davy D. Zebek. He's saying that like the government's been trying to erase that name for a while because it's tied to a legendary pirate named Davy D. Jones. We have seen now like references to Davy Jones when we were like seeing Rox infiltrate Emu's room. We had learned that he was a worshiper of Davy Jones, and like it's making sense now. Like, yeah, I'm sure he is a worshiper. He's a straight up direct descendant, assumingly a direct descendant of Davy Jones. Davy Jones was an actual legendary pirate, and I think it was chapter 306, contest between crew members, and like the person that loses or whatever, they have to swear loyalty to the captain, but also swear like upon Davy Jones. And then we learn later in that chapter, because Chopper like asks Robin, like, hey, who is this Davy Jones guy? To which Robin says, he's a pirate from long ago who was cursed by a demon, and is said to live deep down on the seafloor. Most like treasures and like sunken ships and stuff get locked away in his locker or like his dominion. Which now that I'm starting to like put those pieces together a little bit, is there a possibility that our boy Hinokizu has something to do with Davy Jones? Because Hinokizu is supposedly a pirate who has the abilities to create whirlpools, which, will suck in whatever gets caught in to them. So maybe, who knows? But like continuing on the conversation, like we learn that the kid that Rox had a couple years ago, aka our boy Teach, he is also a member of this Davy clan, and he had told them specifically when, like, he had sent them to his hometown to live, to count on the Davy clan as a sort of a way to just be like, okay, just remember to like have. I assume it just like have pride in your family and like try to continue on our will. But we also get like another big just like lore drop that the hometown that he had sent his wife and child to is God Valley. Like Rock's born on God Valley, and now he's been pulled in by fate, as he claims it, to go back to God Valley. Harald is wondering, why are you revealing your weak spot to me? Now Harald, like, understandably, he asks, like, wait a second, if the world government possibly knows this, are they just trying to lure you in? And Brox is just like, probably not, because like he's definitely not in any like good graces with the world government or anything to be able to like lure them in or like trick them or whatever. They probably don't really want much to do with Rox, but he claiming, they made a mistake. Whatever discovery that they made had decided to make God Valley their target, and it just so happens that Rox is also from there. But the way Rox sees it, it's destiny. It's like fate pulling him back in, which gets us, the title of this chapter, The Island of Destiny. And man, Rox, he's just trying to protect his family, man. Like, they're going for Shocky, they're going for devil fruits, they're going for some kind of clout or whatever. But my boy Rox, he's just trying to protect his family, man. Should like pour one out to him, because every like new thing we learn about Rox, he just gets more and more lovable. And Harald, we get like a shot of Harald that's like, it's painful, man. Like you could tell that Harald is just like he's battling them like ethical like dilemma of what he's doing. Like, yeah, obviously I want to help protect people, but like I need to advance my people's good graces with the government. So I guess I'm gonna I'm sorry about your family, but I gotta GG you now. To which Rox, he's obviously heartbroken, but he's like, fuck it, bring it on. To which then we see a clash on Harald's ship. But then we cut back to the native hunting festival on God Valley, where we see Shocky, who, has been kept spotless and pristine in every way. So they haven't roughed her up like they probably would do with like other captured slaves. But then, whoever the announcer is, he starts making the announcement that, okay, she's the prize here. We also got some devil fruits. You can decide what you want to do with her. You can decide what you want to do with the devil fruits too. And, everybody, they're just like going around screaming like, yeah, we're such shitty people. And then we cut to some of the participants of the tournament who we recognize. We see Saint Summers, who is trying to, pine after Shocky. And we see Garling, obviously, who's like, shooting the shit a little bit with Summers. Like, Summers like, nah, she's going to be mine. And Garling's like, nah, she's going to be mine. Quit dreaming, buddy. And then we also see Gunko with the other member of the Manmayer family. I'm not entirely sure what Gunko's like position would be, because like we see her sometimes just like chilling with Emu. We see her now as a God's Knight, but like now I'm not sure. I guess they're working in tandem together, because what the other Manmayer says, like, with you here, we might just be able to win. So I guess we'll have to learn more about who this other like person is with the tongue out. We have a couple like panels left. The first panel, we see Dragon meeting up with who I can only assume is Shanks' mom. And, she's telling Dragon, hey, I need you to get my kids off the island and don't let him have it. Which, that really could only be translated to like, hey, get my boy Shamrock and my boy Shanks off the island and don't let the not my boy Garling anywhere near him. We cut to a different scene in which we see a jail cell and we see a young Marshall D. Teach along with his mom, and they're both in chains, and they're both basically like trying to hold on to that will to survive, with his mom trying to like actually comfort him in the moment. And in the final panel, we find out that, as excited as the world nobles are that they have a buccaneer brat as one of the prizes, they're saying for the first time in 800 years since the Void Century, they have members of the Davy clan, which that seems to be like a huge like target for them, because I'm sure everybody's going to be like, whoa, we get to finally kill the remainders of that clan too. Yeah, man, I'm just so excited to see how this flashback's gonna go. Like, I'm not convinced that we're gonna get like the full fights between like Garp and Rox or like Garling and Roger. They're just like, I feel like that will still probably be off screen, unfortunately. However, I can see at least one interaction happening with Summers and Gabon, because like the first time Summers cut off Gabon's hand, yeah, Gabon was just like, hey, long time no see. And clearly Summers had recognized him. We also have to like deal with like, the advanced Conquerors Haki, or like basically the application of Conquerors Haki that allow Luffy and the rest in the gang to deal with the Gods Knights. Once this flashback is done, we do have to get back to the Gods Knights eventually. And Gabon, he was basically saying, like, hey, you need to get a better handle on how to use Conqueror's Haki if you want to have any chance against these Gods Knights. So I could see at least one or two, like, clashes happening where, like, it's very explicitly stated, like, oh, you need advanced Conqueror's Haki to be able to do anything against these guys. But, yeah, we'll have to see. Glad, like, we're not on a break this week. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll be able to get this next... or record the next reaction a little bit faster, and also get it to you guys a little bit faster. But yeah, this was a 20 out of 10, honestly. Okay. Yeah, really quick, before we go, just wanted to give a couple shout outs to some tweets that I saw. First one from our boy Togashi, just like brilliantly capturing like, yeah, Roger's for sure about to just like go insane against Rox, but Roger's like, bro, please, you don't know the full story. So yeah, hilarious, great meme, Togashi. And the second point that was made in a different tweet was somebody had mentioned that Rayleigh must have done Garling really dirty, because think about it, Shaki has been like chilling on Sabaody since with Rayleigh, and as far as we know, they haven't tried to take her back since. Garling must have gotten over like Shaki immediately after facing Rayleigh. But yeah, can't wait for this next chapter. Yeah, till next time.